Maritime Southeast Asia, 1509 CE. The Portuguese sailors with their carracks buffeted by the relentless monsoon winds arrived at the doorstep of a legendary archipelago. Their sights were set on Malacca, the jewel of the East, with a singular goal: to establish trade with it, thus replacing Venice as the key player in the Eastern spice trade to Europe. Malacca was a pivotal center in the spice trade routes in the East. Malay merchants met with traders from distant lands like Gujarat, China, Java, Arabia, and even Japan. Tomé Pires, a chronicler of the era, documented the city's immense wealth, describing it as invaluable richness, where spices, more valuable than precious stones, fueled the ambitions of empires. But as Malacca served as a crucial trading hub for the spice trade, it wasn't the source of the highly sought-after spices itself. The true origin of these treasures, cloves, nutmeg, and mace, lay far to the east. Over 3,000 kilometers away and across 3 seas, nestled amidst a remote island cluster known as the Maluku Islands, grew these precious plants. Yes, these precious gems were endemic plants of this particular region, and up until that time, were found nowhere in the world but here, deep inside the archipelago. Then how did these exotic commodities find their way to the bustling port city of Malacca in such a distance? Upon arriving in the archipelago, the Portuguese witnessed the seas of this heart of spice route were dominated by a kind of ship, operated between Maluku Islands, Java, and Malacca. This kind of ship linking the vital spice route. Portuguese reports identified the ship as Junco, as the people in the archipelago called it Junk, a ship originated from Java. These ships were massive in size, about 3 times bigger than Flor de la Mar, the largest carrack Portuguese had and the finest one at that time. In 1515, Duarte Barbosa, a writer and officer from Portuguese India, mentions that the ship carried various goods include rice, meat of cow, sheep, pig, and deer, dried and salted, many chickens, garlics, and onions. Weapons also traded include lances, daggers, and swords, worked in inlaid metal and very good steel. Cubebs and yellow dye called kazumba also carried, as well as gold, which is produced in Java. Traversing the maritime highways of Southeast Asia and beyond, the Javanese sailors visited Maluku Islands, Timor, Banda, Sumatra, Malacca, China, Tenasserim, Pegu, Bengal, Pulicat, Coromandel, Malabar, Cambay, and Aden. By this route, goods were exchanged and commodities transported. Sometimes, travelers and pilgrims hitched a ride. Thus, the precious spices arrived from thousands of kilometers away journey into the bustling port city of Malacca and beyond. For centuries, Southeast Asian ships and sailors played a key role in trade between India and China. These skilled southern people were known to the Chinese as both notable seafarers and shipbuilders since the first millennium CE. While the Chinese undertook cross-ocean expeditions by the 2nd century BCE, many modern historians, including Manguin, Pelliot, Ferrand, Mixic, and Flecker, believe these voyages were made with foreign ships. Though Chinese ships did exist, they were essentially designed for inland waterways. Chinese historian Wang Gunwu stated that there are no records from Tang Dynasty era that mention Chinese jungs being used for trading with Nan'ai or the southern countries. He further observed that ships used by Chinese pilgrims and travelers were either Kunlun or Indian vessels. The Kunlun Pa, or the ships of the southern people, were first recorded in Han Dynasty era as they're reportedly docking at China's southeastern port. It also mentioned that these ships have connected the trade route between India and China since the first millennium CE. The word junk itself, was first recorded in the Old Javanese language from a Balinese inscription from the 1065 Sembren inscription. In the Dawi Zilyu, or Description of the Barbarian of the Isles, a 1349 Yuan dynasty-era book, Wang Dayuan mentions the so-called horseboats at a place called Ganmaili in Southeast Asia. It transported pepper in large quantities to faraway places. This ship was so massive, therefore can carry 10 times normal trading ships' cargo capacity. They were constructed from multiple planks and used neither nails nor mortar to join them. Instead, they used coconut fiber. They have 2 or 3 decks, with a deck house over the upper deck. In the lower hold, they carried pressed-down frankincense. Above them, several hundred horses were carried. It is parallel with Duarte Barbosa's descriptions of Zheng about 200 years later. Barbosa described that the Zheng has a multi-planked hull with 3 to 4 planks one above another, made of teak wood. The hull is formed by joining planks and keel with wooden dowels and tree nails, without using iron bolts or nails. The hull was pointed at both ends. They carried 2 rudders and used tanja sail in 4 masts, but they may also use Zheng sail. On top of the mast, there is a top or gavia, which is used for observation and fighting. The deckhouse extends from the front to the back, where people are protected from the heat of the sun, rain, and dew. At the stern, there is a cabin for the ship's captain. The Zheng also could carry up to 100 burko, a kind of breech-loading artillery, likely refers to local Chetbang cannon. The expertise of Junk shipbuilding, considering their size and construction, as well as the access to its materials, was not readily available in many places. The knowledge and skills particularly mastered by Javanese and Mon shipbuilders. Javanese junks were mainly constructed in 2 major areas. First, on the Java north coast along the Muria Strait, around Rembang to Demak and Cirebon, where the supply of teak wood is accessible. And the second is on the southern coast of Borneo, around Banjarmasin and adjacent islands. Southern Borneo's supply of teak would have come from North Java, whereas Borneo itself would supply ironwood. Outside Java and Borneo, the Mon people of Pegu also produced junk using Burmese teak. In the 16th century, Malacca owned junks by purchasing them from Java and Pegu. By the 14th and 15th century, Javanese ports had become the envy of Southeast Asia. They boasted a wider variety of goods and services than any other port in the region, and nearly all of Asia's coveted commodities could be found there. This flourishing trade was documented by Ma Huan, translator to the famed Chinese explorer Zheng He, in 1413, and even a century earlier by Odoric of Pordenone, an Italian friar who ventured to Java. Echoing the legacy of Srivijaya, Javanese rulers under the Majapahit Empire sought to control the spice trade and thus provided facilities for the spice trade in the Java Sea. They used various types of ships, particularly the junk, for trading to faraway places. The prosperity of Malacca was sustained by the Javanese trade, especially the spice trade of the East. From time to time, junk was used by regional powers to exert its presence and dominance on the sea. Not only tough for trading to faraway seas, this ship was also a ferocious conquest tool. In 1350, Majapahit invaded Samudra Pasai with 400 junks, accompanied by uncountable Malangbang and Kelulus vessels. This was the biggest naval campaign Majapahit ever held in the archipelago. In 1355, Majapahit held an overseas attack to conquer the non-Sarunai kingdom in southern Borneo. In 1398, 300 junks were deployed again by Majapahit with no less than 200,000 men invading the kingdom of Singapura. Following the Portuguese conquest of Malacca in 1511, the expedition of jihad was sent by Demak Sultanate to invade the Portuguese fort in Malacca. A naval fleet led by Paddy Onus arrived at Malacca in 1513, consisting of 100 ships with 5,000 Javanese troops from Jepara and Palembang, and a lot of artillery made in Java. About 30 of them are large Javanese junks weighing 350 to 600 tons. Fernão Pires de Andrade, Portuguese captain of the fleet that repelled Paddy Onus, in a letter to Alfonso de Albuquerque said,
Paddy Onus's junk is the largest seen by the people of this area. He had 1,000 soldiers on board, and His Majesty can trust me that it was a very remarkable thing to see because the nearby Annunciata didn't look like a ship at all. We attacked it with bombardment, but even the greatest shot did not penetrate it below the waterline, and the Esfera I had on board I managed to get in but did not penetrate. The ship had 3 layers of metal, all of which were more than 1 cruzado thick. And that ship is really so terrible that no one has ever even seen the like. It took 3 years to build. His Majesty may have heard the story in Malacca about Paddy Onus, who made this fleet to become the king of Malacca.
In 1521, Paddy Onus launched the second siege of Malacca with an estimated 375 ships. He would fall there when a cannon struck his ship upon docking on the beach. But this would not be the last time the Portuguese were shooked by the junks. In June 1551, Ratu Kalinyumat, Queen Regnant of Kalinyumat and Jepara, sent 40 junks with 4,000 Javanese troops to join 150 Malay Lantaran fleet carrying 6,000 Malay troops, besieging Malacca once more. In 1568, again the Javanese fleet from Jepara along with Aceh Sultanate attacked the Strait of Malacca. And ultimately, in 1574, Jepara again arrived in the siege of Malacca with 300 ships and 15,000 troops. For centuries, the junk has become a legend whispered on the wind. Once a master of the seas, it is a testament to the long-standing glorious maritime tradition of the people of the southeastern archipelago. The children dwelling on the lands below the winds had carved their name in history with this dragon of the seas, in the waves and the winds, which now lives on in stories and songs.